Did you know that 90% of the world's millionaires invest in real estate? Well, I'm Angel with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks, and I'm here to help you if you want to go for your piece of that pie.
And then the other thing I do now, which is probably my newest, and I think it's sort of my passion project, is Last Life Ever. I know Angel knows a little bit about Last Life Ever, but Last Life Ever is a podcast, a Facebook group, and we just talk to people living the best version of their lives. It comes down to helping people not have bad days. It comes down to helping people with investing in real estate. It comes down, but it's not a real estate group, right? It comes down to helping people do whatever it is that they want to do with their life and setting those goals. So like in the most recent episode, we interviewed my brother. That's a coincidence. We normally don't interview my family members, but in the most recent episode, we interviewed him. When I was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, my brother came with me. He actually ended up with acute mountain sickness and ended up in the hospital for 4 days in Tanzania and did not get a chance to make it to the top of the mountain as a result of that. Mm-hmm. And his attitude was amazing. If you ask him about it, he said, look, I went and I climbed this mountain for 6 days and I went down for a day. The whole hike is 8 days. So he did 7 of the 8 days. So he's like, hey, I got 7/8 of the value out of that. But I also had this experience of being in a hospital in a developing world country, and getting to know local people in a way that I never would any other way. And I went to Africa for the experience. I didn't go to Africa because I wanted to stand in a specific spot of Africa, right? And that kind of attitude is so amazing to me, and it fits really well into the Last Life brand. So when he was telling me that, I thought, I have to get this guy on my show, even though it's my brother. I was like, you have to be on the show. And then the other thing is we did the Coronavirus Collective, which you can buy on Amazon. 100% of the proceeds go to charity. It's a series of 26 or 27 different authors writing stories during the first 3 weeks of the coronavirus shutdown, people from all over the world, like Katie McGill, who's in Mozambique, that I was alluding to earlier, that runs the charity to help stop sex trafficking. But there's a girl that grew up as a nomad in Mongolia. There's there's me writing about what I did the first few weeks. There's just so many great authors in there. Frank McKinney, who's an internationally best-selling author, real estate investor, kind of like the rock star of real estate in a way. He writes an amazing chapter about how to use this time. And it would surprise you. It's not about how to make more money right now. It's about how to get your head right while we have this time. And consider it like a pause in life, like a break to figure it out. But there's just so much great stuff in there. And even as we open stuff up, right, it's really helpful if you're still under lockdown to read these stories and understand what these other smart people are doing, like Jillian Sidoti, who's a real estate syndication attorney, right? She writes a chapter in there and she's my partner in Last Life Ever. And she wrote, about her kids being sick, and things like that. So, I mean, it's a really great book, and I really encourage you to buy it. It's like $15 on Amazon. And like I said, 100% of the profits going to charity. I'm supporting Katie McGill's charity, supporting two missionary families, one in northern Kenya that does outreach in Kenya, another one in northern Mexico, and then also supporting the local food bank near Jillian's home in Southern California, which is another thing that's really, I mean, you don't recognize it, but like food banks rely on donations from stores. Stores are out of food, right? Like, so they're not getting their donations. So these food banks are really suffering, which means that poor people are suffering. Kind of goes back to my original theme, which is that like, the people that are most disadvantaged in life right now, those are the ones that are suffering the most. Those are the ones that need our help the most. And so I really feel like, the Coronavirus Collective is really good because it's giving money to those people, but it's also helping us as individuals move past what we're doing and sort of plan how we're going to move forward. And it is kind of religious. I'm not gonna lie about that. We have a pastor and 3 or 4 missionaries and that wrote chapters. So, I mean, if you're super resilient to that, just buy it for the charity. Don't buy it for all of the content. You can at least read mine. I didn't write a religious article. So anyway, listen, that's all I have. I hope I hope I lived up to your expectations.
That was amazing. That's
Thank you.
wow. Just all of it. And I think that one of the things that I've really loved about coming into this space, because we weren't always around a lot of multifamily people. We were around, just our family. I grew up in a family that invested in real estate. My grandparents got into it in the late 70s, early 80s. My grandmother had a GED. My grandfather worked really hard for an associate's degree. They weren't typical real estate people.
Sure.
But they were able to get in that period where it was kind of that sweet spot where if somebody had any cash and they got in, they made money. And so my grandparents were able to find success with that. Well, my husband's family are more typical real estate people. And his father decided small multi was the way to go. And he wound up, I think he has 62 units. And so
significant amount. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was only natural that Jason and I would eventually wind up in real estate. But I'm blown away at just the amount of knowledge that you brought. And then just that outlook. And that's kind of where I was going, is that most of the time people that are having a lot of success in real estate have that mindset.
And they don't talk about it enough, right? Like, that's why, like, when people invite me on to talk at places, my first thing is like, can I talk about mindset? I would rather not even, like, I bring the real estate stuff because I think it's important. I really do. And those are 3 topics. And I have a couple other ones that I like to talk about. Those are important. But at the end of the day, like, if your mind's right, you can get through all this stuff. If you keep moving forward, something I learned on Kilimanjaro, like, I really struggled to get to the top. Now, obviously, my brother had his own challenges and he needed to turn around. In fact, if he hadn't, he would have died. They told him in the hospital he had an extremely bad pulmonary edema. His lungs were filling up with fluid, and his oxygen was down into the low 50s. And they said, if you had gone, even another 15 minutes, you might have died. Like, that's how bad it was, right? And it's a super, dangerous thing to get mountain sickness. But the point was that, like, my struggles were, I'm overweight and it was a really hard climb and the altitude was tough because, there's not as much air up there. But it was mental, right? I just had to keep moving forward. And I kept thinking, like, I would go around this corner and especially the summit night, it's dark, it's cold. You're by yourself with just one guide walking back and forth, zigzagging up and down the summit path. And I would see the next corner 10 feet away. And I would say, if I can just make it there, I can quit. And then I would turn the corner and I'd look at the next corner and I'd think, if I can just make it there, I can quit. And I kept thinking to myself, like, I just got to go a little bit further. I just got to keep going because, like, eventually you get there. And some people would walk by, like, some people it was easier for them. Some of the guides, like, they're not struggling. They do this all the time. And, like, it was much easier for them to climb the mountain than me, right? They do it every day, every week, every month, whatever. But their life isn't easier than mine. Like, it'd be really easy to be, like, jealous of this person that can easily sort of saunter up the mountain, right? But remember, these guys are doing it for $10 or $15 a day to feed their children, right? They're not enjoying it. I'm paying thousands of dollars to climb this thing. And these other people are, like, having to do it over and over again through this miserable experience. And they're just enjoying their life. And you know what it taught me was that, that mindset was more important than any of it. That's really it. And if you keep moving forward, you eventually get there. And I think that's, if I could leave you, I said there were 2 things at the beginning that were important. The third thing is just keep moving forward.
I really love that. That's awesome. Like our own little story was that we have a special needs son. And one night I was crying because we're the end of the Williams name. We don't have a boy to carry it on. And I was crying. And my husband told me, he said, what if it wasn't Anson that was given to us, but us that were given to Anson? And that switched everything up for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. You told me that the other day and I was really, really impacted by that. So I don't have to cry this time because I already did once, but it's really great. And, listen, I don't have any children. And my last name is way less common than Williams. So, like, it might actually die out with my generation. Like, there might not be any of us left, right? There probably are somewhere, but I haven't met them. But none of my siblings, at least not with not any of the boy siblings in our family have children. My brother has a couple of adopted children, so the family name will carry on through them, two adopted sons, and that's great, and I love it. But sometimes I feel that like maybe I let my grandparents down, right, or something like that.
Well, and I was raised by my grandparents because I had some other stuff going on with my own family, but so I've got some of those like older ideas in my head.
Yeah. And that's it though. Like, but at the end of the day, right, like what your husband said about you being the right people to raise your son, that's exactly right. And that's how I feel about my life. It's like, I've been very blessed and I impact a lot of people. Like, yes, I'm not able to have children to raise, which I would love to have done, but I think I'm probably past that point in my life right now. I would have been great to do that, but I'm able to impact other people. I'm able to share my perspective with people through real estate podcasts and through networking and also through Last Life Ever, which, I think that the Coronavirus Collective is the perfect example of that. It's like, I'm not only is my story in writing, but like we're able to curate this group of people that have that positive attitude and spread it out to people even beyond just real estate investors. And to me, that's it's been really great. And it's something that I'd never, if you had asked me 2 years ago, would I be doing this right now? I would have been like, no, I didn't even speak publicly 2 years ago. I was just like, 2 years ago, I was working for this small company. I helped them sell out to a bigger company. I got some severance and I thought, I have enough real estate. I'm just going to take some time off. And then I thought, you know what? I don't actually like not working. I'm just never going to go back to work. I'm going to go like scuba diving and like hang out on beaches and stuff. And that was going to be my plan. And I got bored really fast. And then I thought, well, I'll start doing some syndication, right? I'll help people invest in real estate because I like that. And so I started doing that. And then I started talking to people about investing. And then I thought, well, I need to reach more investors. So I started a show and I liked doing the show. And then I interviewed Jillian on that show and I was telling her about how I wanted to expand beyond real estate investors and, kind of reach out to other people. And I had this idea for Last Life Ever. And she was like, that's amazing. I want to do it with you. And it's just been, the world has sort of conspired to get me to where I am. And I think most people that are successful, it's because they're taking the opportunities that are presented to them. And they're on the lookout for opportunities. Like I never would have thought I would be partners with Jillian Sidoti. She's like a really like super successful syndication attorney. Like, Grant Cardone's one of her clients. That's the kind of successful that she is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So and that's public record. So I can say it, it's on the Series A filings or whatever. That's just insane. Like, I don't even know why I would be hanging out with someone as cool as that, but I am. So it works out, right? You just keep moving.
You know what? It comes back to that idea of, the universe isn't happening to you. The universe is happening for you. And as soon as you come to that realization, you are able to separate success away from other variables like numbers or money, and success becomes its own thing. It's like a living organism kind of thing where you can just be like, wow, this is successful just because it is.
Yeah, and that's actually why we started Last Life Ever, because at the end of the day, I said to people, look, it's not all about money, right? Like Mother Teresa died super poor, but she was very successful, right? She didn't want to be rich. If she wanted to be rich, she probably would have figured it out because she's obviously a very dedicated and talented individual. And the thing is, if your dream life is to be like a server at a Waffle House, then, more power to you. Go do that, right? But like, I want people to be able to live the life of their dreams, whatever that is to them. And a lot of times people don't even, they've gotten crushed by circumstances to the point where they're not even dreaming anymore. So part of that, helping people live the life of their dreams, is helping them figure out what it is that their dream life actually is. And you're I'm going to wrap up here. I hope it's okay. But your thought about the universe, not happening to you, but happening for you is kind of similar to my favorite quote. It's I always think of this, and I don't even know who came up with it, but it was like, the moment that you accept full responsibility for everything in your life is the moment you decide that you can change anything in your life. Right? So that moment when you're like, this, like, if you're like, oh man, this sucks, I got leukemia, then you're just going to be depressed about it. But instead you can say, I have to figure out how to react to this thing that's happening to me. Right? And I feel like I reacted the right way. It wasn't easy. Like, it was challenging at points. Like, I'm not going to say that, but like, if you start saying like, oh, like, I have a disabled child, you know, a special needs child. Like that makes my life hard. And now I you know, it's all this problems. Like if you start focusing on that, then you don't get to embrace how great it actually is. You don't get to see all the positive things that come from that. And you don't get to experience the things that you're experiencing. So it's like what my brother was saying on that last episode. It's like, yeah, would he have liked to make it to the top of Kilimanjaro? Sure. He spent thousands of dollars to do it, but he also, because he didn't make it to the top of Kilimanjaro, got an experience that I'm hopefully never going to have, but that he really, really is really glad he did have, which is he spent 4 days in a hospital in Tanzania, and he got to meet other people in the hospitals in Tanzania and got to make friends with people. And he got to make friends with the guide that walked him off the mountain and literally brought him food and water in the hospital for 4 days, because they don't even bring you food and water in hospitals in Tanzania. Like you have to have your family do it. And he had no family around except for me. And I was only 30 kilometers away. I was 30 kilometers and a 2-day walk away from him, you know, because of the mountain.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, so yeah, I mean, embrace the life that you live and recognize that you can control everything in your life.
That's just really deep.
I don't know. It's the first time I ever said it out loud on a show. So, you know, hopefully it didn't confuse anyone, but that's what I think about all the time. So.